I just wanted to thank everyone for being here today. Uh, Everyone at McGill Athletics and the Varsity Council really appreciates your time to be here.
My name is Makenzie McCollum. My pronouns are she, her. I am Métis and I play on female hockey.
Hi, I'm Isaiah Cree. I go as pronouns are he, him. I play for the men's lacrosse team, and I am Mohawk from under the Haudenosaunee Community Confederacy, and I come from Akwesasne.
Hi, my name is Mikisiw Awashish. I'm playing hockey here in the McGill. I'm from Mashtoyets and Obidjwan, E-News, and Atikamestown.
And my name is Patrick Young. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm from the men's rugby team, and I'm here today in my capacity as Vice President of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the Varsity Council here at McGill.
Yeah, I grew up in Mashtoyets, which is E-News town in Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. I've played hockey all my life. Hockey is a big part of the indigenous culture. I've been hunting a lot in my young age, as well as fishing. So I'm very proud of who I am, where I'm from, and I guess I'm just following my path, the path of many that does the same before me. So
For me, huge part of my life. I grew up in Akwesasne Native Community Reservation, like hour and a half south of Montreal. So like it's not far from like say bigger area cities and towns, but it was definitely like secluded to its own self, focused on itself, and like lacrosse in the community is huge as we were like one of the creators of the sport. So like I was born like, with a stick in my hand basically. I was given a wooden stick from birth and then before I could walk holding a stick. So like lacrosse has always been a huge connection with like my cultural identity and that whole thing and like within my community being able to like be a part of different ceremonies and traditions like fishing and stuff like that like is definitely huge. But like also living in like the Western societies and like school and like all those institutions also like is a form like has taken a part like in my life. So like being able to balance both I felt like was always important to me. So like that's how like it just got me to the way like place I am now. So
For me, I only learned I was Métis when I was 16, so it took a little while like for me to get into the culture and everything like that. But like since then, it's had a huge impact on my life. Like the people I've met because of it are some of my closest friends today, and I love like learning about the culture and being a part of it. And yeah.
And we kind of touched on it here, but also I was wondering, how has your culture/culture identity affected uh, your experiences in sport?
One of my favorite coaches actually coached me at the National Aboriginal Hockey Championship, and he taught me a lot of life lessons. Like, and I grew as a person, and I don't know. I've like always loved the game of hockey, and since a young age, and yeah,
it's like we had like I remember in high school there's usually two different high schools that kids from the community would attend, and whenever like those two like would come together and play like it was always a huge game because the different it was hometown kids playing on teams that weren't like the high schools were not on the reservation. So like we had to venture out to those high schools and like even though there was like more native kids on one team than there was the other, it was just like the fact that they were coming together to play say against each other, even though it was like the rivalry was there, but it was just like seeing everyone to come together like as a community was like that form of like medicine that we believe that the sport is, and it's just huge. Like it's always been huge in my community. Any lacrosse game, there's always so many people, like so many people.
And sorry, I shouldn't mind if I just cut in. And how, because it's called the medicine game, the
Like
original. How
yeah.
does that differ from lacrosse? Just to explain it to everyone as
Well,
well.
like the medicine game originally is like with like the wooden lacrosse sticks, how you made traditionally, and like that whole importance. And like there's many different forms of lacrosse. Like there's so many different forms of lacrosse. Like with the native tribes out west and like everywhere, like there's so many different forms. So like the depiction like of some certain areas is like the importance of it is like also bringing people together, like I was saying, in a whole community aspect, but also like it would also replace like war between allied tribes instead of like having everyone kill each other for an area was not like the purpose of like having that land. So like they'd rather like instead of feud they just have a lacrosse game over that territory, have two goals at the end, whatever form that tribe felt. Like some were a pole that you had to hit, some were giant like soccer net sizes that you had to score into. But like that game just resembled like war, and there were no rules, so you could brutally hurt someone if you wanted to in that game. But like that wasn't like the importance of it. It was just more like playing together as a team, and then like just promoting. I don't know, like just brings community together, makes everything, that whole aspect. So
Having the culture behind me as a kid that play hockey, I've been different than many other kids that used to play with me. You know, in terms of support that I received for by so many people actually. Like it's been, you know, since day one, sports have been there because you know in hockey and sports in general you go through tough times. So you know, uh, non-aboriginal kids have their family to support them, maybe a couple friends, but as an aboriginal kid you have your family, your friends, but a whole community behind you, like maybe a town, but even more. And then that's been huge to me. Like maybe it comes with pressure at some point, but I always felt like a hand taking me by my butt and pushing me up instead of pushing me down by my shoulders. So that's kind of an image I like to have in my head. And yeah, that's been huge, and I'm very thankful for that. So
For me too, like I grew up in a small town, and I felt like I was one of the only girls who played hockey in that whole town, and like I always had support from the entire community, and like I wanted to be a role model to the young girls playing hockey as well. And there was lots of like Aboriginal communities around, and you would see all the young girls playing too, and you're like, wow, like there's a future in this sport. So that was huge growing up.
Does anyone want to talk about their journey coming to McGill as an Indigenous student athlete?
I got drafted in the QMJHL by the Saguenay-Chicoutimi, which is my hometown team in the QMJHL. I got traded to Bécomo Drakkar. I played there for a year. I finished my junior career in Saint-Georges-de-Beauce with the Condors team. Then yeah, I landed here. I'm very happy about it, and I'm looking forward for next year of good hockey. I hope.
For me, my journey started in Manitoba, a small town called Morden. Yeah, I started playing when I was 3 as well. I grew up skating my whole life. Like my dad played, my older brothers played, so I kind of was just following their path. And I actually moved to BC to play hockey at a prep academy out there, and then got recruited out here. And like I toured the school and met the team, and I absolutely like loved it out here. Yeah, the education's a huge portion, and just the team was really good, and I loved the culture and the family feeling here.
Awesome. And then the next kind of follow up is, now that you're here at McGill, just wanted to know how you, like, if you felt supported as Indigenous student athletes, and you know what resources you've used, if you do feel supported, etc. If you want to talk about that, maybe.
well, I've used, because we have like a First People's House, and there's like Indigenous initiatives and like those different groups like within McGill. But like it's cool, it's good, and I like that they prioritize it, especially more. Like I heard, like I've talked with people like there, and they've like said it's been better, but like they're definitely trying to incorporate it more and get more people on board and try to like just grow the community. They're trying, but like definitely like having First People's House and having areas like that does like help and like grow those spaces and help people from say outside communities who's never been even lived in a city like become comfortable in the situation that they're in now from like their relocation of like moving away from their community and being by themselves. I just think it just helps them to be a part of the grand scheme and be a part of McGill. So I think it's good. I definitely think it's good. So like definitely the people around and the reps they're good people.
Yeah, like I from day one, like all the emails and like everything have felt like included by McGill, and they've helped like financially too, like a burden off my shoulders from like not having like school's expensive and stuff like that, and they've been great with that. So
Yeah, and is there anything that you think that McGill and its community could do better to better include Indigenous people in the community and to respect the culture, etc.?
I don't know. Like maybe something will pop out in a couple of seconds. But I do enjoy that at every game that take place. I mean, in Percival Molson Stadium, they recognize. You know, there's this message that goes in the audio and stuff like that. That recognize that we are on the indigenous land and stuff like that. So I do enjoy that. I do enjoy, all my friends are, looking at me like that and listen to it. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know, and yeah, which is I think it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. But I mean, as I talked about like the First People's House now, those like spaces, I think they do a good job with that. But like more, I don't know how much more that they could do besides like the indigenous factor of like weighing in the more things that maybe that could be available to different say communities or maybe having more reps or just having just maybe more indigenous workers to maybe incorporate that because I noticed now like I've had friends that have graduated and then like now they're working within indigenous initiatives and like they are making that community larger within the institution. So I just feel like as that continuously progresses, I just think it'll only be better. But like we're not gonna like there's not like many indigenous graduates now as say like there will be in the future. So I just feel like it'd be hard to be like, yeah, we want that now. But it's like
Exactly.
it'll grow.
It will grow with the time because,
Yeah.
like you said, for 100 people out of I don't know how many students here in McGill, that's hard because we got the every kind of help we want. If we want to apply for whatever type of thing we need, we can have it here in McGill. Now I think to promote, to have new ways to help, and promote just the culture. It's going to be, I think, with time, because there will be more students, more indigenous students that will graduate and that will be active in McGill. So that's will come with time. That's because right now, we're kind of stuck. I think we can do more or promote with that type of project and stuff like that we're doing now. And yeah, I guess with the time.
Yeah, there's another thing like the STARS tutoring, the athletic tutoring. Like I'm a part of it, and we do go to Indigenous communities and help out Indigenous students, like the younger generation, and like tutor them and help like support them. So I think like that's another like if we're reaching out to the communities and like saying like we are here at McGill, like you can be too if it's your dreams and goals. So I think that's important too.
That's good.
Sorry, just like on that, does Isaiah maybe want to ask this question?
That question, I was like, yeah, it'll work right in. I was like, it'll work right in. Yeah, I was like, it'll go right with what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like, well, a question is like, being an indigenous student within a like Western like say school, do we want more indigenous people as a whole to be attending institutions like this and to go into spaces that aren't usually like normal or say like not indigenous like knowledge or spaces ceremonies like indigenous knowledge can only be made by indigenous people. Indigenous sovereignty can only be determined by themselves. Like those spaces and that knowledge can only be valued within itself, and like for it to be incorporated within Western societies like universities will be difficult because it'll be coming from an entire Western perspective. So like say me attending an institution is going to be almost like assimilative practice because of learning those Western practices opposed to going to say ceremonies in Longhouse and being super traditional and learning about like the different life ways or worldviews that I would have if I was staying in Longhouse compared to in the classroom. So like it'd be hard to argue say we want more or we want less because both sides have their own arguments. Both sides know where they're coming from, and every nation has their own definition of who they are and who they want to be. So like it'd be like a case by case like scenario for certain communities on how many people they want within school or how many people they feel they should be in school or like in that whole image. And like and to promote like say going to university is almost like an assimilative practice or a like that churches used to do in like the 50s and still actually happen today. Like but like that process is technically negative and contradicts indigenous knowledge and minimizes it. So like to do that even though they shouldn't be and should be on the same level is like hard to argue. Even though like if you talk to elders they'll talk more like learn our ways, learn our people, learn our practices and traditions. And then like if you talk to say like people younger like your parent, like my parents are like in their 40s. I know many people who have older parents because my parents had me when I was young. So like they definitely know the importance of going to school and and getting an education and being a part of like the outside world, opposed to just being like within the community. But like that doesn't exclude you, if you are Indigenous, from being a part of the outside community. So like there's multiple different routes that you would like to take. I just feel like it would be more about like yourself and what you make it out to be, because that's what makes you comfortable in your own cultural identity. So like to say we want more or we want less has its own like benefits and negative aspects.
So how has your perspective changed since, after 16 when you found out that you're Metsi versus before you found out and you didn't know?
For me, like, it changed in a way that, like, I wanted to be, like, more inclusive. Like, I've always, like, I don't know, as soon as I found out that I could be a part of something, like, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to, like, end the stigma of how it might be treated or how like people might see like being Indigenous. I always took it as like a positive way, like it adds something to me. It creates like individuality, like and yeah, I always took a positive role on it. Like I'm proud to be Métis, so.
I feel like that's very interesting. And your relationship with it will be like unique and like, make it out what you want.
For me too, like I would see people at training camp and I'd be like I'd have to explain that I'm Métis too. Like no one would know like looking at me, so I'm like I'd have to tell them. And then the other girls, like I could see that they felt like they had to push harder to be a part of something, and like I would just always like go out of my way to make sure that they felt included, because even though like they might not have known that I was Métis, I like wanted to make sure that like they knew like I was there to help them too. Yeah.
Especially when you don't know like the environment you're training for. Yeah. You gotta make yourself, more vulnerable to someone,
So I'd like to announce that McGill Athletics is holding 2 special games this year. The first one is the Legacy Game, honoring the Indigenous roots of lacrosse. That's going to be held on September 30th at 8 p.m. at Molson Stadium. And the second one is the Orange Shirt Game that is going to be played by the Martlets hockey team, and that's going to be on October 1st at 2 p.m.